You paid your homeowner's insurance for 20 years, but now your house is damaged and your insurance adjuster has disappeared on you. When disaster strikes, no one should have to fight an insurance company alone. That's where Avner Gatt and his team of public adjusters comes in. Unlike the insurance adjuster who works for the insurance company, a public adjuster works exclusively for you. It's their job to document your loss, negotiate on your behalf, and make sure the insurance company pays you every single dollar you deserve. Avner Gatt and his team bring years of experience, industry knowledge, and a deep understanding of how insurance companies operate. They know every trick the insurance companies use, and they know how to win. Call Avner today for a free initial consultation and an extensive network of experts ready to immediately assess your damages. From start to finish, Avner's team manages your entire claim so you can focus on rebuilding and moving forward with your life. Don't let your insurance company dictate the future of your claim. Call 818-917-5256 or visit avnergatt.com today. 818-917-5256. Avner Gatt, your claim, our game.
Good afternoon and happy holidays. We're getting right down to business here, doing it live, doing more at 4 weekday afternoons, right after Guy Benson and just before Randy Wang on the 790 KBC News Blitz. Mottek On Money, live on the air, 790 KBC, streaming live online worldwide at kbc.com. Your on-demand Mottek On Money podcast, kbc.com, Apple iTunes, YouTube, all your favorite podcast platforms. Stocks ending the week on an up note, moving higher today, snapping a recent losing streak on signs of cooling inflation, and also the tech names coming back to life, including Oracle on this TikTok deal. Wall Street optimism moving higher at the end of the week here, and what's been a somewhat volatile week. The S&P 500 today did close up by 60 points to 6,834. The Dow gained 183 at 48,135, and the NASDAQ up 301 points at 23,308. Looks like we had a mostly winning week as well for the major averages with the rebound we've seen over the past couple of days. The S&P 500 and NASDAQ have risen, 0.1% for the S&P 500, just about 0.5% for the NASDAQ. The Dow was actually lower by 0.6% on the week. Oracle moving higher after China's ByteDance signed deals to create an American TikTok joint venture, including Oracle. Looks like the AI trade got a boost this week from NVIDIA. The shares popped on a report that the U.S. is reviewing prospects for sales of its H200 chips in China. Also, the drug stocks struck deals. Were in focus today. Pharmaceutical companies striking deals with the Trump administration to lower drug prices for some consumers in exchange for a 3-year tariff exemption on their products. We did get delayed in November reports on jobs and consumer inflation, despite warnings over their reliability. It looks like that inflation number came in much better than most analysts had expected. With all this on the table now, it looks like traders are still betting on 2 rate cuts next year, but have shifted more bets in recent days toward more cuts. Also, the yield in the 10-year note is in focus again, moving higher despite the recent Fed short-term rate cut. The yield in the 10-year note now hovering at around 4.15%. The big dog on Wall Street, Goldman Sachs researchers put out their forecast for growth in most major economies for next year at or above consensus estimates, and it's most optimistic about the U.S. because of tax cuts, easier financial conditions, and reduced drag from tariffs. Despite longer-term challenges and competition from China, the euro area economy is forecast to increase 1.3% next year. And also, economists expect core inflation to moderate and policy rates to decline in developed markets in 2026, according to the big dogs on Wall Street there at Goldman Sachs. Of course, Bitcoin has seen an epic year, trading at all-time highs above 126,000, then back down around 80,000, hovering at around 87,000 here. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about it with one of our crypto go-to experts, and that is Jason Nelson from Decrypt Media at decrypt.co. Also coming up on the 1-year anniversary of the horrific LA firestorms in January of 2025, thousands of homes and businesses destroyed. A difficult recovery continues. It was another challenging year for small businesses overall here in the Los Angeles area. I'll be joined live later this hour by Angela Marsden, owner of the Pineapple Hill Saloon and Grill in Sherman Oaks, an outspoken small business advocate here in Southern California. But first, on your money, the markets, the economy, and the whole works now. We're honored to say I'm joined live by Steve Forbes, chairman of Forbes Media, which includes Forbes magazine, former Republican presidential candidate, taxpayer and tax reform advocate, and author of numerous books, including Inflation, What It Is, Why It Is Bad, and How to Fix It. Steve Forbes, thank you very much for taking the call here as we get set to close out 2025 and head into 2026.
It's been quite a year, and good to be with you. And I'm sure it's warmer where you are than what we have here. We're getting freezing temperatures and lots of wind and lots of rain. Winter is already here.
You got to come out and enjoy some of this weather while it lasts. We're expecting a storm this weekend, actually, so hope to see you out here in any case. But what a year, 2025, an epic year, certainly in the financial world, and heading into 26. As I just mentioned, there's a lot of optimism here. Give us your assessment here of 2025, first of all.
Well, I think the year turned out to be, certainly on the business side, stock side, better than anticipated. Inflation was a little stickier than anticipated. And we have the whole issue, new uncertainty about tariffs. I expect the Supreme Court sooner rather than later will make a decision on those tariffs. Over half of them were issued by President Trump via executive order. And those, I think, may well be thrown out by the Supreme Court. I don't think they'll force a refund. They'll say what's done was done, but in the future, you can't do those tariffs or collect money on them unless it goes through Congress through a lawful process. But the economies around the world are a little shaky, but we didn't get a disaster. But outside of the U.S., and a lot of people in the U.S. are still struggling paycheck to paycheck. And hopefully they'll get some relief with the tax relief on tips and overtime and a little bit on Social Security coming up in a couple of weeks.
You wrote the book on inflation, What It Is, Why It Is Bad, and How to Fix It. What about inflation? And what about silver and gold hitting record highs, including silver today above $67 an ounce? Silver is now, 1 ounce of silver is more expensive than a barrel of oil, which is hovering at around 56 and change. We're looking at silver here at 67 and change, just at a time when we're told that inflation is subsiding. We have the precious metals popping to record highs.
Well, the price indexes haven't been going up as much as before, but people still notice, even though some things have come down in the supermarket, like price of eggs are way down, prices way down. There's a lot of other things that are still moving up a little bit. But inflation overall has come down, but the weak dollar, just as you alluded to, especially the price of gold and now silver, is a warning sign, a red light flashing that monetary inflation, that is a weakening of the dollar, is poses a future danger. All the currencies around the world are weak, but the idea that we would be in the same ballpark as the British pound, whose economy is in dreadful shape, shows how people lack faith in the dollar. So I worry about that. It's not going to show up in the immediate future, but it is a warning that we're going to have some very choppy monetary waters. And this gets the whole thing on the battle with the Fed. The Fed will say, well, if you fear inflation, we shouldn't be cutting interest rates. No, you shouldn't be manipulating interest rates. And what I hope the administration announces sooner rather than later, Frank, that the dollar is the goal is going to be a stable value for the dollar instead of the yo-yo that we have now. So things should be better, and if we get the dollar right, they will be better. But that's a pretty big if, because a lot of people in this administration and among the Democrats like the idea of a weak dollar.
On the Air Live with Steve Forbes, who do you think is going to be the next Fed chair? That's going to be big news early in the new year.
Yes, and it's amazing. The president is playing that for all it's worth. Names are being floated. Governor Waller was name is being floated now. So I still think it's going to be. It's still a long shot, but I still believe it's going to happen. That we're going to get Secretary of the Treasury Bessent moved over to the Fed, and Kevin Hassett, who's the head of the National Economic Council, the president's chief economic advisor, move over to the Treasury Department. So Hassett at the Fed and Bessent at the head of the Federal Reserve. Hassett at the Treasury and Bessent at the Federal Reserve.
See it tonight. Read about it tomorrow. But hear it now on Mottek on Money, live on the air with Steve Forbes. You're on 790 KABC. And regarding the Supreme Court ruling on tariffs, obviously a lot riding on that. President Trump has put a lot of stock, shall we say, in the tariff plans. And if this does go sideways, might that be a market rattling situation here? What do you think is going to happen? What are the possible scenarios here as far as a financial market reaction if the Supreme Court throws out the tariffs?
Well, I think it's going to be there'll be some turbulence because of it. But I think the Supreme Court I think the ruling will actually soothe the fears in the business community of tariffs going up and down almost on a daily basis. And in the future, tariffs are going to have to be passed either by a regulatory process, which is in place, or by Congress passing a tariff, which is a tax. So I think it's going to take a burden off of the economy, even though the president's going to be enraged by it. And by the way, those patriotic checks that the president referred to on Monday night, $1,776, since that's coming out of a special housing fund, that won't be affected by the tariff ruling. And I also think the Supreme Court is going to, in effect, say revenues that collected in good faith in the past do not have to be refunded, but in the future you cannot collect revenues on tariffs that are imposed by executive order. They're unconstitutional. So I don't think we're going to have the mess of trying to figure out refunds.
Yeah, what about that $2,000 tariff rebate checks, dividend stimulus check? Is that something that's still on the table? You think that'll happen?
I think if it was going to happen, the president would have announced it on Monday night instead of just the money for the people in the military, bonus for our people in the military. I think so. I never took that too seriously. But I think what the president will push for, President Trump and his team, is going to be another one of these, what they call reconciliation bills, which means you can get it through the House and through the Senate by majority vote rather than 60 votes in the Senate. You can do it with 51 votes. I think they're going to push for more tax cuts. This one broader, aimed at companies. The president, as you know, wanted to cut the corporate tax rate from 21 to 15%. That did not happen. And I think they're going to reduce the capital gains levy as well. The nice thing about cutting the capital gains tax is you instantly raise more revenue. So that'll allay or lower concerns about increasing the deficit if you cut the capital gains tax. And I also think they're going to have some cuts for personal income taxes. So it just won't be from tips or overtime. It'll be a more broader base, which will be good for the economy. So not to get too wonky, but we have two tax rates. We have several, but the ones that really hit middle and upper middle class people, 22 and 24% brackets. I think those brackets could be reduced both to 15%, which would be a real good boost for not only for income taxpayers, but for the economy as well. So you combine that with what they're doing on tips and overtime, and that should be a pretty good package. Good rocket fuel for the economy.
All right, looking ahead now to 26, what do you see ahead for the economy in 2026? Obviously, with the rise of AI, which was a big story this year, looks like we're going to be getting more AI in the new year.
Well, I think you're going to get something of a shakeout in AI, but I think you're going to also see some real entrepreneurship starting to arise in electricity generation. We've all now reading more and more about how nuclear power is coming back finally after 30 years, 35 years. And there's also going to be, I think, new ways of generating electricity, traditional electricity, but instead of just the big utilities, I think you're going to see the rise of especially with AI, finding new ways to generate electricity and distribute the electricity. So the whole utility industry, I think, is going to be quite an exciting area. Once upon a time, way back when, in the 20s and 30s, utilities were seen as high tech. And then the Depression came and they put on all sorts of regulations. I think you're going to see utilities become high tech again. Also, I think this year you're going to see more and more focus on high tech and affecting transportation, especially something called ocean aircraft. It's not really aircraft, but you're going to have these what look like airplanes float 20 to 30 feet above the water and be able to carry people to all sorts of places. It's they're prototypes. I saw one a few months ago. Very, very exciting. So a lot of positive things are coming, and also in healthcare. So if we can just get over the hump of uncertainty about taxes and tariffs and the Federal Reserve gumming up the economy, there's some exciting stuff happening.
Certainly, and interestingly, oil in all this has come down significantly, and a lot of people, other than California, enjoying lower gas prices. We're looking at oil at 56 and change here. Like I said, silver is more expensive. 1 ounce of silver more expensive than a whole barrel of oil here. And certainly on the geopolitical front, we're watching what's happening with Venezuela and the U.S. Locking horns with this tremendous military buildup in the Caribbean now, and something could happen really at any moment. What is your assessment of the situation that's developing there and the outlook on oil prices and all of this?
Well, in terms of Venezuela, I think they decided to go after Maduro, the dictator of Venezuela, without them being quite sure of how they were going to remove him. We certainly don't want to send in the Marines like we did against Panama, the dictator there 40 years ago, who was a notorious drug runner. But I think they've come upon the formula, which is to take these sanctioned ships and seize their cargo. And we've done one. I think you're going to see several of them, and that's a lifeline for Maduro. We have to remember that guy lost an election over a year ago in the middle of 2024. He was forced to have an election. They held it, but then they rigged the counting of it. And by every independent observer, that election was won by the opposition leader. She became a Nobel Prize winner. And so the sooner we get her back to be able to take her rightful place as president of Venezuela, the better. So I think we're not going to send the Marines, but I think seizing these illicit freighters, tankers, I should say, carrying oil that they shouldn't be carrying to people who shouldn't be buying it, that may have a little blip on the oil price, but I think it will get Maduro out. And one of the things I think you'll see happen is a real focus on starting to repair the immense damage that has been done to Venezuelan oil fields since this guy took over and his predecessor. And so I think in the next couple of years, you're going to see Venezuela produce more oil, which will help keep down gasoline prices.
Will peace hold in the Middle East? As President Trump said in a speech the other night, peace has come to the Middle East for the first time in 3,000 years following this peace deal now between Israel and Gaza, following this horrific war that started after Hamas attacked Israel. What about the situation there? And if we can go around the world for a moment, obviously the Ukraine and Russia war continues as we head into the new year, and China still on the radar screen.
Yes. And in terms of talking about Ukraine, that's one thing I really fear, is that we may force the regime there, President Zelensky, to do a deal that undermines Ukraine's future independence. And, we can criticize the Europeans, we can criticize this and criticize that, but we must preserve the sovereignty of Ukraine, and the Europeans have now woken up to it. If Putin gets effective control of Ukraine, that's going to have a very bad impact on Europe and on the United States, our own security, because Putin will figure, and Xi and China will figure, the U.S. may talk a tough game, but we're not going to follow through on it. On the Middle East, Hamas has not accepted the fact internally that they're beaten, that they have to disarm. So I think you're going to see more skirmishes there. And I hope we let the Israelis do what needs to be done until Hamas is truly and totally disarmed. When that happens, then I think you have a chance for a precarious peace in the Middle East, which is pretty good. And as for China, we're going to have to take, I think, more forceful measures in terms of stopping their bullying of Philippine ships in the South China Sea. The South China Sea is a critical waterway in international trade, and it's been U.S. policy for over 220 years freedom of navigation, that the waters remain open to everyone. And that's something that we're going to have to, I think, take more forceful measures, steps to make sure China doesn't continue its efforts to try to turn these international waterways into effect Chinese lakes.
Steve Forbes, thank you very much for taking the call here to wrap up 2025 and look ahead to the new year. We wish you and your family all the very best, and your team at Forbes there. Appreciate everything you do, and thank you so very much. We wish you all the best for the new year, best of health, happiness, and prosperity, and look forward to many more conversations with you in the new year.
Look forward to it, too, and maybe one of your teams in L.A. may be in the Super Bowl, so watch out.
Well, we're gonna have you on and talk about that next time as well. So, Steve Forbes, all the very best to you, and again, thank you so very, very much for joining us live here this afternoon.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Frank, and take care.
Thank you very much, Steve Forbes, chairman of Forbes Media, which includes Forbes Magazine, former Republican presidential candidate, and author of numerous books, the latest, Inflation, What It Is, Why It Is Bad, and How to Fix It. Steve Forbes live here on Mottek On Money on 790 KABC. Silver and gold hit all-time highs. Silver, especially in the spotlight this week, hitting all-time highs above $67 an ounce, $67.39, up another $2 today to $67.39 an ounce. Gold hovering near its all-time high at $4,368.70 an ounce. We're going to start paying more attention to platinum, which got a pop today above $2,000 now, up 55.10 at $2,016 for an ounce of platinum. And palladium also along for the ride now, up more than $20 at $1,795 and change. It's been a volatile week for cryptos. We'll talk more about that coming up here shortly with our crypto expert, Jason Nelson. Bitcoin right now hovering just above 88,000. Ethereum just below 3,000. Solana at 126 and Doge at the moment at 13 cents. The Dow coming in for a closing gain today of 183 points. S&P 500 up 60. The NASDAQ up 301. The yield on the 10-year note now at 4.14%. And now the latest news on 790 KABC.
AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.
You paid your homeowner's insurance for 20 years, but now your house is damaged and your insurance adjuster has disappeared on you. When disaster strikes, no one should have to fight an insurance company alone. That's where Avner Gatt and his team of public adjusters comes in. Unlike the insurance adjuster who works for the insurance company, a public adjuster works exclusively for you. It's their job to document your loss, negotiate on your behalf, and make sure the insurance company pays you every single dollar you deserve. Avner Gatt and his team bring years of experience, industry knowledge, and a deep understanding of how insurance companies operate. They know every trick the insurance companies use, and they know how to win. Call Avner today for a free initial consultation and an extensive network of experts ready to immediately assess your damages. From start to finish, Avner's team manages your entire claim so you could focus on rebuilding and moving forward with your life. Don't let your insurance company dictate the future of your claim. Call 818-917-5256 or visit avnergatt.com today. 818-917-5256. Avner Gatt, your claim, our game.
Headed to SoFi Stadium? Ride the Culver City Bus Line 99, the SoFi Express. Just $2 base fare for a round trip from Westfield, Culver City on weekend game days. We're hiring too. Learn more at culvercitybus.com or call 310-253-6500.
Mottek On Money continues. 790 KABC. Epic year for analog gold as well as digital gold. Bitcoin hit a record high this past year, above 126,000, then pulled back to around 80,000. Right now hovering at around 88K. Let's talk cryptos now as 2025 winds down and we get into 26. Let's bring in Jason Nelson now from Decrypt Media at decrypt.co. Jason, thank you very much for keeping us well informed on the crypto scene this year, and thanks very much for taking the call here this afternoon.
Thank you, and happy holidays, everybody.
Likewise, Jason, thank you very much. Take it from the top. Give us your assessment here under President Trump, pro-crypto administration in place. We did see Bitcoin hit a record high above 126K and then lots of volatility up since then. Give us your assessment here of cryptos in 25.
Well, it's definitely been a very interesting year. It started off with a lot of optimism and euphoria leading up to Trump's second inauguration, as well as afterwards. He kept a lot of the promises that he made, including pardoning prominent figures like Ross Ulbricht in his first week in office, and you've seen a lot of crypto legislation and even and executive orders come out that really spoke to the promises he made leading into and the conclusion of the 2024 presidential election. The problem, though, that started to evolve, and this is something that we've been talked to by different experts and analysts, is when the Trump coin came out, that started to sour the broader bipartisan push to do crypto regulation because it became something related specifically to him as opposed to something that was just another digital asset or something that could be traded on the stock market. It became synonymous, and so now it's turned into more of a bipartisan thing than it was even before.
All right, what's going on with Bitcoin here? It's been a kind of a stomach-turning month or so now, with Bitcoin getting down to 80, now hovering in the high 80s again here now at 88K. What's going on? Just Bitcoin doing its thing, being volatile, or as far as any reliable analysis, or what do you look at on Bitcoin and trying to make an assessment as to where it goes from here?
Well, that's always been the issue with Bitcoin is the volatility. And, it's one of those things where right now what you're seeing is a drawback in investments in ETFs. And we're putting out a report shortly that's basically saying that there just hasn't been much movement in the larger wallets. So Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in general is very sentiment oriented. So when you don't see a lot of movement in the bigger wallets, it tends to not excite people in the lower areas, the lower tiers, to invest too, because they don't see much movement going on to start the excitement going. So now we have the talk of maybe we're entering into a bear market, but that really is, again, the sentiment. Once we start seeing some type of major movement, that sentiment may change.
All right, so silver in the meantime hitting record highs, gold also hitting record highs this year. Is money coming out of the cryptos and going into the metals? What's the talk among the crypto folks about what's happening with analog gold?
Well, you started to see some movement, especially during the government shutdown and after the whole back and forth about tariffs. When President Trump said he was going to impose a 100% tax on tariff on China, that spooked the market, and you saw a lot of people exiting, and they were putting their money into different assets. Sometimes some were even just going back to cash. So that shows that the volatility the market is very susceptible to the broader government and geopolitics of the economy. So, you had that, and unfortunately, it doesn't look like much of that has come back yet.
On the air with Jason Nelson at Decrypt Media, covering the cryptos here. What about Ethereum, which is now below 3,000? It got a pop this year, too. And Solana was getting a pretty good buzz this year, but has pulled back down to around 126 here right now. And Doge, we haven't heard Doge mentioned much lately, and it's at 13 cents here at last glance. What about some of these other names?
Really, meme coins like Dogecoin haven't been doing much. And for the last few months, a lot of the pump around Dogecoin came from the Doge government agency, which pretty much is done. So you don't have as many people making the correlation between Doge and something bigger. So that has kind of tapered off. The meme coins in general, some analysts say that they're here to stay, that this is just a downturn, but it'll be back. Others say that it's pretty much just done. one of the analysts that I spoke with recently said that the Trump coin, meme coin, kind of wrecked the altcoin season that would allow meme coins to get their value back up. And again, it goes back to the correlation issue. So we'll have to see how that progresses in 2026, especially heading towards the midterm elections when we're going to see just how partisan this issue has become.
All right, and then there's some more legislation on the horizon, right? One big bill related to crypto passed this year, but a couple of others are still outstanding as we move into 26. What's happening on that front, crypto regulation and legislation?
Well, so far, the largest regulation has been the Genius Act, which regulates stable coins. And that's had a lot of movement in how institutions and banks deal with cryptocurrency. You have a lot of projects issuing their own stable coins now, a lot of banks looking at how to use it, payment processors. The Clarity Act is the one that is still being worked out. Now, what that one would do would be giving the CTFC primary authority over digital commodities instead of how before it was primarily the SEC that was dealing with crypto regulation. Now it would be the CFTC. So once that gets ironed out, then we'll start seeing how the industry works after that. A lot has changed since Gary Gensler is no longer the chair of the SEC. A lot of optimism came back in. And then there's always been the question of if crypto should be considered a security or commodity. And hopefully once the Clarity Act is passed, it'll iron that out.
All right, and the senator known as the Bitcoin senator will not be running for re-election. Cynthia Loomis, how significant is that?
That was actually a surprise because it was. She's been a very vocal supporter of Bitcoin and in Washington for many years. So for Senator Loomis to say I'm done, and that takes a prominent voice out of Washington that was on the inside, not one of the crypto advocates on the outside trying to convince the government and legislatures to look at this fairly. This was someone who was actually elected and on the inside doing it. And so that's going to be a loud, prominent voice that the industry no longer has.
Jason Nelson at Decrypt Media at decrypt.co. Jason, want to wish you and everybody there a happy holiday season and all the best in the new year. Thanks very much for keeping us well informed here this year and looking forward to many more conversations in 2026. Thank you very much for taking the call here this afternoon.
Thank you. Have a happy holidays.
You too. Thank you very much, Jason. And out to the freeways we go now on 790 KABC.
You paid your homeowner's insurance for 20 years, but now your house is damaged and your insurance adjuster has disappeared on you. When disaster strikes, no one should have to fight an insurance company alone. That's where Avner Gatt and his team of public adjusters comes in. Unlike the insurance adjuster who works for the insurance company, a public adjuster works exclusively for you. It's their job to document your loss, negotiate on your behalf, and make sure the insurance company pays you every single dollar you deserve. Avner Gatt and his team bring years of experience, industry knowledge, and a deep understanding of how insurance companies operate. They know every trick the insurance companies use, and they know how to win. Call Avner today for a free initial consultation and an extensive network of experts ready to immediately assess your damages. From start to finish, Avner's team manages your entire claim so you can focus on rebuilding and moving forward with your life. Don't let your insurance company dictate the future of your claim. Call 818-917-5256 or visit avnergatt.com today. 818-917-5256. Avner Gatt, your claim, our game.
Headed to SoFi Stadium? Skip the traffic and ride the Culver City Bus Line 99, the SoFi Express, your direct $2 base fare round-trip ride from the Culver City Transit Center at Westfield, Culver City. Buses run on weekend game days every 20 minutes starting 3 hours before kickoff, with return service beginning at the start of the third quarter. And guess what else? We're hiring. Join our team and help keep the community moving. Visit culvercitybus.com or call 310-253-6500 for info on your next ride to the game or maybe your next job.
U.S. soccer. Reality says the odds are stacked against us. To think our U.S. men's national team can ever raise the world's biggest trophy. Be the first soccer team to beat them at football. Never. But here's the thing about us. Refusing to accept reality is kind of our thing. Being unrealistic, that's not a flaw. It's a force. It's fuel. Because if you want to be great and make history, never chase reality. Join U.S. Soccer Insiders today. Be part of the journey.
Mottek On Money continues here, 790 KABC. Hard to believe, coming up on the one-year anniversary of the horrific LA firestorms in January 2025. Thousands of homes and businesses destroyed. It was another challenging year for small businesses overall here in Southern California. And joining me live now is Angela Marsden, owner of the Pineapple Hill Saloon and Grill in Sherman Oaks, an outspoken small business advocate and known to lay it on thick and tells it like it is. Angela, thank you very much for joining us live here this afternoon.
Hey, Frank, thank you for having me. Happy holidays, by the way.
Likewise to you and yours, and you've kept us well informed on the small business scene and the struggles that continue. Take it from the top and tell us your view of what's happened this year.
The theme of 2025 is Survive 2025. If you're breaking even as a small business, you are literally at the top. You're doing amazing if you're breaking even. Most people are down 20 to 30%. And the year, it just started with the fires. The fires put everybody down, put people out of business, and then others dropped, 40, 50%. And so you're working to climb out of that. Then we end up having a lot of the chaos downtown, the riots, the things with ICE, and it's one thing after another. When they shut down the government in October, this fourth quarter has been a nightmare, Frank, for small business owners. I don't know. People don't have money. They don't come out. Everybody wants a deal. So you have to overcome and adapt. You really have to overcome and adapt if you want to stay alive. A lot of places are shutting down their lunches. You go to your favorite place and it's no longer open for lunch because they have to save on payroll. I personally don't want to shut down my days because I love the people that come in for my days. But I myself am working like 2 days a week without paying myself just so I can keep my lunches open, so I can keep my cook employed, who's been with me forever. You really have to, in order to survive in LA, you have to look at every single thing you can do to overcome and adapt. And I am praying that we go into 2026. I do have hope for 2026, Frank. I really, really do, because we have all these tax breaks coming, so there'll be hopefully like a influx of cash in people's pockets. We also have the World Cup coming. But if you're a small business owner out there and you're listening, go to the it's MCS of Los Angeles. It's a career center that helps with the economics of small businesses. They have been a blessing to me. There is grant money out there for people affected by the fires. There is people out there. There are people in LA that are trying to help. You just got to get to the right people. But it's been a nightmare. This year is, some people say it's worse than COVID. I've heard people say it's worse than COVID. I've had fellow businesses owners go out of business. I have a friend that has a small vitamin, like a GNC's. They're down 35% across the board. 35%. And anybody that walks through the door, they want a special. They want a deal, and that's where you've got to overcome and adapt, and it's been brutal. It's been brutal.
You're amazing.
But
You're amazing.
I am not going to stop.
No, don't stop. And you did a fantastic job there at that wonderful remote broadcast a month or so ago with John Phillips, Randy Wang, and Susan Shelley and the whole group there. That was wonderful to see you there, and you're just absolutely amazing.
What's exciting? What is so exciting and why I'm hopeful is because, number one, we have productions that they say are going to start up in the new year. We have the World Cup coming. And we also have, for all your listeners, please be motivated to vote. We can get a different mayor. We can get a different governor. We can actually pick somebody that's business friendly and that will actually help us succeed. And that's exciting, right? So Survive 2025, hopefully to get change in 2026.
We got to come up with a good slogan for 26. It looks like the minimum wage, meanwhile, is going up again, right? Starting January 1st.
You know what? I beat that drum all the time because you basically you're cutting out jobs. We have to let people go. And you come into a restaurant like mine and you wonder like why the service is slow or why there's only one person working, because the owner, the person that owns it, she can't even afford to buy a house. I live in a rent-controlled apartment. Like, we have to do whatever we can to save money, and then the prices go up. The only thing that as a small business owner that we can do is raise the prices on the consumer, which isn't fair to them. They're broke too. Everybody is hurting right now. I don't know why they think the incompetent way that they run this city is just amazing to me. It's as if they've never owned a business themselves, and so they spend all this money, they get us in a deficit, they run the city to the ground, and they think they can just, raise minimum wage and tax the businesses more. And there is nobody, I don't want to say nobody, but it's been the lowest as far as a new business startup in 20 years. People are just, they're not coming here to have a business, and it's so infuriating to me. And the consumer doesn't understand. They just see the prices go up and they're like, why are the prices going up? Well, how are we supposed to pay for it if we don't raise the prices?
Not to pile on, but on crime and homelessness, do your concerns still fall on deaf ears at City Hall?
Yeah, absolutely. I will give them this because I have to give credit where credit's due. The homeless has not been as bad around my area, but I know it is in other areas, So, but when it comes to the crime and the homeless, where's our money, Frank? Where's our money? Mm-hmm. Who spent the money? Where'd it go? I am so happy that the federal government is looking into and trying to catch people that have taken all this tax money that we gave to help the homeless, and yet we still have the largest homeless population, right? So thank goodness somebody may be held accountable. We hope.
Now, tell us what's happening there at your place. You're going to have a New Year's Eve party. What's going on there at the Pineapple Hill Saloon and Grill there in Sherman Oaks?
New Year's Eve is hump day. It's on a Wednesday this year. So we are going to do the count down the ball and do a toast of champagne. But we're not going over the top this year. It's just going to be a low key New Year's Eve.
Well, God bless you.
We are open.
Angela.
We are open for Christmas though. Just in case anybody's lonely or they're feeling down, because this is the time, we will be open on Christmas, and we'll have the football games going, and we will have company for you here. I think it's really important during the holidays that we all check in on our friends and the people around us, So come on out and watch the football game on Christmas if you're by yourself.
You make it wonderful for everyone, Angela. Thank you very, very much. Merry Christmas to you, and happy, healthy, and prosperous New Year.
Happy Hanukkah. Happy all the holidays. Thank you so much, Frank.
Thank you very much, Angela Marsden, owner of the Pineapple Hill Saloon and Grill in Sherman Oaks. I want to wish all of our listeners a wonderful holiday season. Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, and a happy, healthy, and prosperous 2026. I want to thank the KABC team and Wayman Porter at the controls here, Larry Bloomhagen, and the list goes on. Thank you. 790 KABC.
You paid your homeowner's insurance for 20 years, but now your house is damaged and your insurance adjuster has disappeared on you. When disaster strikes, no one should have to fight an insurance company alone. That's where Avner Gatt and his team of public adjusters comes in. Unlike the insurance adjuster who works for the insurance company, a public adjuster works exclusively for you. It's their job to document your loss, negotiate on your behalf, and make sure the insurance company pays you every single dollar you deserve. Avner Gatt and his team bring years of experience, industry knowledge, and a deep understanding of how insurance companies operate. They know every trick the insurance companies use, and they know how to win. Call Avner today for a free initial consultation and an extensive network of experts ready to immediately assess your damages. From start to finish, Avner's team manages your entire claim so you can focus on rebuilding and moving forward with your life. Don't let your insurance company dictate the future of your claim. Call 818-917-5256 or visit avnergatt.com today. 818-917-5256. Avner Gatt, your claim, our game.